Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways, Coyote in the Highlands. I am here to attack agriculture once again. And this is controversial, and this is a big deal, but I'm gonna go at this, okay? Because a lot of the Back to the Land homestead movement revolves around the idea that we need to grow and eat plants in a specific manner to save the planet. No. I'm going to contend right now that just present an idea. I want you to think about it, okay? I don't want you to assume that I'm completely right. This is rant mode. I might be exaggerating some things to make a point or to make you think. Agriculture is the primary driver of environmental damage in the entire history of our species, from day one. Famine, disease, epidemic disease, pandemic disease, it all comes from agriculture, right? Environmental damage, water courses, all of that extinction stuff, it all comes from agriculture. So according to some people, we are in the 6th great extinction. I like to argue about that a little bit and present the fact that, the Cambrian explosion actually had more species go extinct than there are on the planet now in a very short period of time. So you have to think about this you have to think about this in a context. Like, all these species are going extinct. Okay, but does that mean new species aren't arising? Does that mean replacement isn't happening? Like, what does this actually mean? We discover new species every day, too. We're constantly differentiating our definitions, so I don't know what this means. But if we are having a problem with a 6th mass extinction, it has nothing to do with CO2, has nothing to do with global warming. Nothing to do with the temperature of the Earth. The temperature is warming to a point where the Earth is getting back to life. Okay, we evolved in a period where the Earth was almost dead. Like, we were getting pretty close to not enough CO2 to maintain our normal life cycles at one point in time. Parts per million. CO2, you need to have a certain amount of CO2 or the plants can't live. The more CO2 you have, up to some incredible point, which is way beyond where we're headed, you have more plants, more life, everything gets better, okay? Busier, much more competition, evolution, and extinction, because that's how jungle planets work. It's not a tundra planet, it's a jungle planet. Anyway, if we're having an extinction, big major extinction, it has nothing to do with CO2 or global warming or global climate change, because that's all positive towards life right now. Okay, this is one of the big things. You can talk about the programming around this and your mythology and your convictions and your faith, but you're being misdirected in your faith. The problem isn't CO2. It's not global warming. It's environmental destruction. Now, hear me out. If we're having a mass extinction event, it is because we cultivate the land and pick what grows. We pick things that grow to advantage us, and we get rid of stuff that doesn't. Because of the population, because of the work involved, because of all the stuff, that means we also grow and harvest. It means we weed, it means we pesticide, even if you don't use petroleum pesticides, if you use organic pesticides, which are the stronger ones, actually, if you use other methods, what you're doing is you're killing stuff. You're killing bugs, you're killing rodents, you're killing stuff to protect your food. It's competition, survival of the fittest. It's a very basic thing. The easiest way around that is to macro scale it and eat cows instead of stuff that grows in the dirt, because then you're not worried about whether or not the bug got in, or the ergot got into your wheat. Actually, ergot's a really good thing if you know how to separate it and fraction it. So, or truffles, corn truffles, for example. It's a mushroom thing that's actually really valuable, but it fucks up your crop, right? So we kill all this stuff for agriculture. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you're doing large-scale, edge-to-edge monocrop agriculture. It's true that reduces the available niche edge environments. So I talk about edges a lot. I've talked about edges a lot in the Utopian series. You destroy the edges, the ability of things to live on the edges when you do the really big monocrop agriculture. However, you also get a lot more results because you don't have that competition from all the stuff on the edges. If you're doing small lot agriculture and permaculture and stuff, you can do okay, but it's a lot of labor, and it's very niche, and it's not going to feed 8 billion people. It's not going to feed 10 billion people. It's not going to feed 7 billion people. It's probably not going to feed 5 billion people. Okay? I love the idea. I love the idea of getting into the environment. I think for human spaces, permaculture is a fantastic idea and a way to go about it. It's a really good way to repair our water supply systems, our water cycle. That's one of the biggest damages that we have from agriculture. But it's agriculture that is driving all of the shit. So, whether you like it or not, it is in fact your potatoes that are causing problems. Eat meat, not potatoes. So, agriculture is a problem. There are ways to fix that. It's possible that we are actually technologically at the point where we can make agriculture positive instead of negative. I just dissed permaculture, but at the same time, I think that permaculture on the edges of pastures and pastoral fields and stuff can actually make everything way better. Improving your water cycles, getting the water through instead of just dividing up the land in little blocks and forcing irrigation and stuff. There's a lot we can do with permaculture. There's a lot we can do with organic farming if we do it right and we don't let the corporate marketing people own it, which too late, already did that. Organic's dead. But the real nature of organic farming, it's still possible and beneficial. All of that's there. Okay, we could, now that we understand that systems exist, and it's not just NPK. For a long time we believed that soil was just NPK. Just chemicals. Just 3 chemicals drive all plant growth. Completely ignoring CO2, right? Well, we know that soils are living environments now, okay, and that there's this whole underground ecosystem, and there's this whole above ground ecosystem. It's called a biocrust. There's actually a living layer on the very top that is actually invisible, sort of like the lining in your blood vessels, where everyone thought cholesterol was clogging your arteries, but it was actually damage to this lining in your vessels that the cholesterol plate packets were being band-aids for, and they were just like covering the wounds. It's the wounds that were causing the problems, not having cholesterol in your body, because cholesterol is important. But we couldn't. This lining is very ephemeral and invisible, and it actually goes away, disappears, destroys itself, whatever. It dissipates instantly the moment you get into a vessel, the moment you expose stuff. So we never found it. Like we've only known about this for a couple decades, and no one actually knows we know about it because it hasn't made it into grade school or high school science textbooks. So no one actually knows or believes. Well, there's a biocrust on the ground right below me over here, and that's one of the reasons I'm trying to manage the trails and how I treat this 40 acres of land, is that you can, once you're trained, actually see the difference. You'll have less dust in undisturbed dirt because it's not just compaction and stuff, but there's living stuff in there. There's a bacterial layer, there's a fungal layer, there's all this stuff going on, and it kind of ties it together. It's kind of like that. Underground, there's a soil environment that's like a big deal, and it makes the plants grow better. But the plants are mostly food for the animals that we eat. That's the way it's really supposed to be. It's how we got our brains. It's how we got our guts. It's how we got so many neurons in our guts too. People say, "Oh, the brain is energy intensive." It's the neurology that is energy intensive. Just remember that. There's 2 centers to that brain. So, agriculture is the biggest problem we have. Hands down, biggest problem we have. And it's not a problem because we're going to suddenly run out of food and there's going to be a famine and all the whatever the news is programming you for. It's a problem because we are damaging, perverting, fucking up the environment, our environment, the one we live in, with agriculture. All this goes away if you fix how we eat and you fix how we produce food. Now, there's no really good profit motive in this. You have to figure out a way to get the big ag companies to make more money building parks and permaculture than building food factories. Because profit and power drive everything. You have to, like, once again, just like I've said in the medical stuff, if you just gave them $50 a day from every person in the United States, you know, and to shut the fuck up and fix things instead of trying to sell us new stuff, well, they wouldn't have any capital costs. It's pure profit. Yay! Bonus. Just give them the fucking money and let us live. There's an element to that that's, you know, it makes sense when you think about it. I don't think it's a workable solution, but when you think about it the right way, you understand it's a demonstration of what the concept is. They need emotionally, whatever, need their power and profits. So give it to them in a way that allows us to actually live a healthy life. That's the answer, or a potential answer. What it does is it illustrates the problem. So agriculture destroys bugs, bug species, animal species. It's a huge, massive thing. We've obviously had management problems in the past. For example, market hunting. Market hunting was a thing in the United States where people would go hunt for restaurants and stuff in the past, and we did it without managing the range. So that's a problem. You know, we didn't manage the species supply and everything, and that's a problem. Overhunting is a problem. Underhunting is a problem. Right now, we actually don't hunt deer in many states enough to keep things in balance, though that's actually a problem, you know. I'm not really big on eating coyote. I've had dog meat. I haven't had coyote meat. I can't imagine it's like my super favorite thing, but there's a really good meat source right there because they're fucking everywhere. They've really adapted well to human cities and human expansion. So I'm not saying that's necessarily the best answer, but there you go. It's something, you know, it's something to think about. Like, could we control those populations? Can we control those populations and have more of the animals that we do want to eat? Javelina, pig. I'm more into the ruminant side of things instead of the monogastric things, but, you know, sheep, goats, cattle. If you do it in the right way, in the right places, I do like wild poultry. You know, wild quail ranges is not actually a bad idea. All this stuff works together, and we've actually been burning the planet for over 1.5 million years to guide the species, to help promote the species that we like to hunt. So there's an interesting fun fact. We've been terraforming since before we were really Homo sapiens sapiens. We need to keep terraforming, but we need to look at it a little differently and understand the complexity of the systems and the ecologies, that they're there and that we need to, you know, tread carefully. Agriculture does not tread carefully. Agriculture is probably the biggest driver of extinctions, if that's your thing, pollution, if that's your thing, global warming, if that's your thing. I don't, you know, really buy that one. Not that it's not happening, it's happening, but that it's a negative, huge crisis, that's, you know, highly debatable. More CO2 is good if you want plants, you know. If you like plants, get more CO2, get warmer temperatures. But all of the stuff is driven by agriculture, all the negatives that you're perceiving. So you gotta fix that. And one of the ways to fix that is the pastoral, herding, animal-based agriculture, because it does better. It does better. It's a life cycle. It's part of the cycle of the ecology. It doesn't separate itself from the cycle of the ecology. And, you know, that's about that. I'm not trying to discount anything. If people like to eat vegetables, they're really easy to grow, but the big grain crops especially, and the big ingredient crops for the food factories, soy, sorghum, all of that stuff, that's got to go. That's purely negative in every regard, except possibly that it was our path to civilization, but we got to get over that. That's it. Stay sideways.